All right. Good morning, Dan. Thanks for joining me on short notice here before I hop in the truck so we can have a podcast out to these guys while I'm gone.
Yeah, no, feels good to be back. Hands got a little bloody in Texas last week, and you're getting ready to go. It's a good time of year.
Yeah, it was fun to hear about your Texas hunt down there. And yeah, you sent some good arrows down there, which is the goal. And so, yeah, congrats on that. Fun to hear about that. And got just a great podcast today. I really enjoyed it.
It was, yeah. We kind of talked a little bit about, well, obviously our trips, experiencing Texas, and then your Aoudad hunt coming up, and then just all the intricacies of hunts and like forgetting gear and breaking stuff, and how we carry ourselves in the field and our gear to prevent not only minor issues with equipment, but catastrophic issues too, with maybe a broken bow or whatever. So yeah, pretty informative podcast, if I do say so myself.
Oh, we covered the traveling bow hunter today. Yeah, we kind of went over stuff that we double up on, how we protect our gear. Yeah, just how important our gear is to us. But yeah, it was good. I thought we hit it. I thought we hit all points of the traveling bow hunter, whether it's worth it to bring an extra bow or not. Yeah, we really covered it. It was a great podcast. So yeah, thanks to you. Thanks to our sponsors for today's show. So thanks to Yeti Coolers. So I definitely have a Yeti cooler, tumbler, cup loaded up, drinking from one this morning. Like, man, I just use their gear nonstop. Just great products. Buy once, cry once. It's the best gear made.
Yeah, just like anything in the hunting industry, if you want something quality, you buy once, cry once. Is just the reality of it. And check out the soft side coolers too. As we were talking earlier, I was kind of kicking myself. I didn't bring a soft side down to Texas to bring some meat back on the plane with, some frozen meat, because it's really, it's easy to overlook the effectiveness and the convenience of one of those soft sides. And it's like, it's small enough to be a carry-on too. And it keeps stuff cold. I have one in my boat, for fishing, and it's crazy how effective those soft siders are as well.
Oh, I love those things. Yeah, good point. They also have their gear boxes, which we use as well. Just a bunch of different products there. They have their new cast iron pan that you guys probably heard about a couple weeks ago. So yeah, Dan and I are looking forward to using those as well. So yeah, thanks to Yeti for their support of the podcast.
Yeah, and then Matthews too, huh?
Yep. Yep, that new arc, man, that thing is shooting.
You ready to go? Is this going to be your first hunt with the arc?
It is, yeah. I had my other bow all set up, and just takes me a while to get confident and comfortable in that bow. So the Lift X shot great for me this season. I was so happy with that thing, and I almost contemplated bringing that down for this last hunt of the year, but I had about a month or so, and it's like, oh, I want to get this arc set up and start shooting it. And it didn't take long before I was like, oh man, I'm taking the arc on this hunt. It's like that bow is just shooting, so forgiving, so quiet, so easy to tune. Limb shift technology, I had that thing tuned in within a handful of shots, and then other than that, it was just double checking things. But yeah, man, it's just a great shooting bow, and you've already killed some critters with it.
Yeah, no, great bow, elk hunting in Texas, and just I get questions and comments over the years of, isn't it annoying that you have to change bows so much? Because like once you get into the rhythm of shooting a bow and it's like an extension of your arm, you have a bunch of confidence in it, right? But with these Matthews, like it's so easy to change from bow to bow now because they're so similar. Number one, and they're just so easy to shoot. They're so efficient. They're so easy to tune. Like we talked, you can do everything micro adjustment wise at the range without a bow press. And so we're so spoiled, especially the last couple of years with the Lift X and the arc. I mean, just the shootability of the bows nowadays is just crazy. It's just mind blowing. And when you think back when I started bow hunting, like in 1999, from where it was then to where it's come now is unbelievable. So yeah, just awesome bows.
Yeah. Oh, it's wild, man. Yeah. They just keep building them. I'm always impressed that they can outdo themselves year after year and build just a little bit more forgiving bow, a little bit more performance. I fall in love with each year's bow, and this arc is no different, man. It's super dead in the hand. The thing aims so good, man. It just holds on target and just super fun and forgiving to shoot. So yeah, great job by Matthews. Make sure to check out everything we're doing at Eastman's. So we've got the magazines we've been writing in. We've got the other podcasts. So Eastman's Hunting Journal is done by Ike. There's Wingman. My other podcast, Eastman's Elevated, on there. Jim Huntsman has a podcast. So a bunch of podcasts under the Eastman's umbrella. Make sure to check those out.
Yep. And the collectives, Elk and Deer Collective, we're always having promotional deals going on. So check out eastmans.com for those. They're changing all the time. We're giving away knives. If you haven't checked out goat knives, we did that giveaway this fall, giving away the Capper TI and then the chamois. So if you haven't checked out goat, make sure you check out goat knives. Great quality knife. The chamois. I'm starting to get back into the fixed blade realm. Like I love like a quality fixed blade that I don't have to sharpen halfway through an elk, which is nice compared to some of the Chinese replaceable blade knives that I've used in the past. So there's something to be said about a quality fixed blade knife. So anyway, check out those giveaways. Beyond the Grid, we're looking at editing new episodes for 2026. It's already here. We start editing now, probably in January for our July releases. So that we have a lot to look forward to coming up in 2026.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out any of the old films, Dan has so many good films on there. I've got a bunch of films on there. Like there's a bunch of good older content in the Eastman's YouTube channel. So we put out a lot of videos, and so you might have to scroll back a ways. But I mean, Dan had just a couple awesome elk videos last year, and years prior to that, he's killed some great bulls on there. So make sure you search back and look up some of those older hunts, because they're definitely good ones that you can get entertainment value and insight out of. So yeah, definitely make sure to check out the YouTube channel and subscribe to it as well. And that helps us for filming future hunts, is to have that engagement and that audience to get things approved and to capture some of these big adventures for you guys. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to that. And man, I think we hit all points, Dan, didn't we? Covered everything. Get into this podcast, huh?
Yeah, let's do it. I think that covers it. Let's jump in.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Welcome, Dan. Hopefully you had a good Christmas, huh?
Oh yeah, it was good.
Good. Yeah, around here too. It was kind of slower pace. We had my older daughter came home for Christmas, spent a few days with us, and it was good. It didn't snow, it rained in Montana, which is pretty wild. But other than that, at least we're getting some moisture in one way or another. I'm sure some snow is going to show up eventually.
Yeah, we had rain too. It's been weird. I was kind of bouncing all over the place. Different family, my brother's family, they were sick, so didn't really get to do anything with them. And we went from 50 degrees to 14 degrees this weekend here. So it was definitely a weird few days weather-wise. But yeah, we've been getting precipitation here too. So just probably the first time, same thing, rain in December. I can't remember the last time that happened.
Yeah, it's nuts. Well, you just you look like you got a tan. You must have been down where there was some sunshine. Your flight did take off to Texas. You get out that day we did the podcast, or you have to fly out the next day with the wind?
Dude, I am almost embarrassed to admit this, but I got freaking motion sickness on that airplane flying out of here, out of Cody, and then flying into Denver. It was brutal. The wind was crazy. I was like somewhat shocked that they still like flew the flight. I mean, yeah, life goes on, business goes on, but dadgum, fasten your seatbelt, kids. The stewardess, she was like, and you guys thought rodeo season was over. And she was like laughing.
That is wild that they can fly in that kind of wind. Yeah, I bet it was nuking on the takeoff, and then Denver's always bumpy to come into. So yeah, I have to imagine it was a pretty wild ride.
It was. Yeah, I got to Denver and I was like, I don't feel too good. I had to like walk it off for like an hour, had like a 2.5 hour layover and had to walk it off. And I did get something to eat eventually, but it was bumpy the entire way. There wasn't 1 second where you're like, oh, it's smooth and we can catch our breath. It was bumpy the whole way.
Oh, wild. But you did make it to Texas. I saw some text messages come through. Looks like you had some success down there and did some management.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it was. It was fun to be a part of because it's just such a different world, like kind of the management aspect. It's, call it little Africa or whatever you want to call it. Texas is just different. And everybody kind of manages. That's the cool thing is their ranches down there. We were on this place that, if you do your own surveys and kind of come up with a management plan, the state of Texas will issue you as many tags as you want for your management plan. So I think that's cool because it just gives the landowner the ability to really manage exactly how they want to manage. And so I think that was cool and that was fun to be a part of. You get down there and it's totally different, right? Because for us, we're used to going out and scouting and finding the animals and finding a target animal perhaps and maybe not being as picky or whatever you're hunting public. This depends on the situation, but down there, you get there and they're like, oh yeah, we have these cull deer that we need to cull management bucks. And they're in these locations, it's the peak of the rut. So you never know where they're going to show up. So that's the fun part of it too. But yeah, you go out and sit in blinds and sit over corn. They sprinkle corn on the ground and you're there to harvest a certain deer or a certain select deer. And so you're sitting there watching 140 to 165 type bucks just feed. And you're like, oh, that's cool. And whatever else comes in, there's warthogs down there and some javelina. I shot a javelina too. But it's you get to just kind of view wildlife and look at things from a different perspective because you're looking for like age of the animal. You're totally not even looking at the antler features, but you're looking at the body, how he's you know carrying himself, how his face looks, how his neck looks, how he's shaped. So there's all these different factors that you take in to kind of decide what's a cull deer and what's not, and then your mission is to harvest that specific deer that you probably have a picture of. And in one of the cases, I shot one of the target bucks that was a cull in that area, and they wanted me to kill. And then another older deer came in, and I like sent a picture to the manager, and I was like, "Oh, what do you think about this one?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, kill that one." And I was like, "Okay." So, so yeah, you like wait for permission. It's like you're a hired gunman, right? Or a bowman in our case.
Dude, that's wild. Yeah. What a great education on aging deer too. It really has you looking at their bodies. And it's something I've really tried to improve on over the years of killing older deer, more mature deer. But yeah, good on you. So you got the okay on your hitman on your target when you sent it to the manager. She was like, "Oh, that's an old deer. Yeah, take that one out, huh?"
Yeah, yeah, just kind of looking at the shape of the body, and then you look at antler features, and if if these deer, if they're not like 140 or like fairly impressive by 4 years old, they're like, kill them, and they manage a ton of deer a year off that place just because keeping population down is an issue. So it's the norm for them. But yeah, just this buck, he was shorter tines, probably like a 120s buck, like a smaller buck. But yeah, older deer that just probably isn't going to develop into anything. And both the deer that I killed were probably 4 to 5. I think the one was 5.5, and the wide one must have been 4.5. But I think by the time they're 2 or 3, they probably 3, they know if the deer is going to be special or not, and that's ultimately what they're going for is that strict management. So it's just so different, and it's fun to be a part of. And not that I'm not going to make an episode about it or anything for Beyond the Grid, but to be a part of something like that's management wise, it was a hoot, man. It was fun.
It's always fun to immerse yourself in like a different environment like just a different experience as well. And so Texas had to be warm down there. And then you were hunting with Jack as well. Did he end up killing a good one down there?
No, he didn't. He didn't kill one. He was holding out for a big buck, one of the trophy deer down there, and he did have a couple management bucks that came in, but I think what happened was, they have these management bucks that he could have shot, but one of the target bucks was like out there, and so you don't want to like screw up the scenario, so he didn't shoot any of the management bucks, but yeah, unfortunately he didn't get one of the big ones, but he's hunted there several years and killed plenty of deer, so he didn't really care. He's like, whatever, that's hunting.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the way you got to look at all hunting. Like, if you
Mhm.
only have fun when you're successful, you're not going to go too far. And in bow hunting, it seems like failure is kind of inevitable. And, sometimes you don't get them, but you still have to enjoy the experience and the journey. But yeah, that Texas sun had to feel so good, man. How warm was it down there?
Yeah, it was. They were all complaining because this is horrible deer hunting weather, and during the day we are mid 70s. I think we hit 82 one day, and we had sun one of the days. But dude, the other 2 days we had a little bit of rain, and then the other 2 mornings it was foggy. Like just, and they're like, man, it's never been this bad, but it was like very foggy a couple of the mornings. So we got kind of a mix, but I mean overall it was warm. So yeah, I was definitely soaking in the rays there in the afternoon.
Yeah, getting that vitamin D,
Yep.
man. It's like
Yep.
my skin doesn't see any sunshine from like about here on out, although it's been fairly nice. But yeah, I always feel good like getting in the heat and giving my skin some sunshine, It seems like just warm on my face. And it's wild when we come from places that are so cold during the winter. It really does feel like a vacation when we can soak in some heat somewhere in the middle of winter.
Oh, dude, it was great. And this, down there, any of these ranches, they have the walk-in coolers, and they're having issues with the walk-in, and so they had to thaw out the element, and because it was leaking and whatever, and then so they got it thawed out, and then they turned it up, and so it like got really cold, like 20 degrees in there, and so I put my 2 deer in their hole, and they started to freeze, and so they were frozen. But here it is 80 degrees out, so I was like, well, I got to cut these deer up, so I get them out of the cooler and get them out in the sun, and then I'm just working away cutting up deer on these frozen deer in 80-degree weather, and it was great. Shirts off, like you said, soaking up that vitamin D, and like great afternoon of just cutting frozen deer in 80 degrees. It was like, this is pretty nice, and these things, we got them out whole. We drove right up to them, so that's kind of nice too.
Yeah, different experience, but yeah, good for you. That'll kind of close out your season until at least till spring, right?
Yep. I don't have anything else planned at least till April. I got to figure out my plan for April. I got to do something. I want to do something, but I just don't know what to do yet.
I know. I'm starting to toss around the possibilities too. It'll be here before we know it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I got to get something in the spring. I love, my local black bears, and I can do that in the evenings and weekends and go pretty hard doing that. Might get renewed vigor for another big bear, but yeah, also looking at travel and what I can put together and maybe doing something in the spring. It's a long off season. It seems like by the time April rolls around, April, May, I'm ready to go do something.
Exactly. Something in the South Pacific, and of course, New Zealand, Australia is always on the mind. I thought about going over to Spain too and checking out some of the ibex, and a roe deer would be cool, mouflon. There's a lot of options, and factoring everything in, but it's just that adventure bow hunting side that we love, right? We love doing it. We love, checking out other cultures, and hunting with like-minded people from across the globe that we're all wired the same, and so I really enjoy that. I enjoy the different cultures and different hunting species, and it's just, I love it.
Yeah, dude, it's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spain's definitely been on my list as well. And then, yeah, I like the Southern Hemisphere, that time of year, like around April. Yeah, I really enjoyed, I really enjoyed like New Zealand and hunting up high up there. So like I don't know, like maybe maybe going back and doing something like that in those big mountains in the Southern Alps or whatever. And yeah, hunting. God, I'm at a loss for the species. What is it again that I'm hunting down there? It's not the chamois, but
Oh, the tar, yeah.
the tar. God, I couldn't think of that. I was drawing a blank. But yeah, hunting those tar is pretty fun up high up in there. So yeah, maybe doing something like that would be fun.
Yeah, it's just like a Western hunt, right? And same type of country is, they say down there and on the South Island, it's very similar to Wyoming, or like Namibia is too in Africa, just open, like big hills, big mountains, but fairly open. I mean, in New Zealand, you kind of have a little bit of everything depending on where you want to go. But yeah, probably one of the prettiest destinations in the world too for, a hunter as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love fly fishing and traveling so much too, and they have so many big browns down there. So maybe trying to combo it and fish the rivers, or maybe travel it with my wife for a bit, and then
Yeah.
stay for an extra week and hunt or something like that might be kind of fun. But yeah, playing with the possibilities anyway. So yeah, that'll be coming up. First off, I've got that New Mexico trip for Aoudad. So I've got all my stuff sitting behind me packed up in the garage, and it's kind of nice. I'm not flying by the seat of my pants in the middle of hunting season, hunt after hunt. I've kind of had some time to get all my gear ready and food ready and everything. So yeah, I'm going to take off tomorrow morning, and then looks like it's about shorter than I thought it'd be. It's like 18 hours with stops, probably be 20 hours or so down there. And then yeah, I have a pretty good hunt plan built, and yeah, everything put together. So yeah, just traveling across the country. Like one of the, I was trying to figure out all my radios and headsets. It's allowed down in New Mexico to hunt with radios down there. So that's going to be a huge advantage, just to have somebody on the glass and then be able to make the stalk. And I hear those sheep travel quite a bit. So once we find a ram, trying to keep eyes on them and then have somebody go on the play. So yeah, trying to get all those things charged up and ready to go. Got that new Matthews shooting really good. So I wasn't sure if I was going to take the new arc or not. It takes me a little bit, a little longer just to build a relationship with those bows and have them all set up and just really trust them. And this year's bow was shooting so good, the Lift X. And so I was like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to get this other one set up, but I might end up taking it just because everything's so dialed in and it shot so good for me this season. But it didn't take too long shooting that arc where I'm like, yeah, I'm taking that thing. Things absolutely shooting in some good groups. So yeah, it should be fun. We'll get the first trip under the belt of that that new arc.
Yeah. So a situation like that, are you going to take two bows? Are you going to take a backup bow when you go on it's cross country, but you're not as cramped for space like you would if you fly internationally necessarily. So what are your thoughts on that?
I have before. It depends on the hunt. And I thought about it this trip, but I'm not going to. I'm going to bring an extra string. I've got serving. I've got a portable bow press. And so I'm going to bring an extra rest. And so I'll have some extra gear with me. And I thought about bringing another bow. The only reason I'm cramped for space is I'm going down with my buddy Dan Heverin. And so we've got one truck between the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time we get coolers in, by the time we get all our gear, and he's used to kind of traveling by himself, and so am I. And so, we're used to like having all this gear that we bring. And so, yeah, I just thought an extra bow is just going to get in the way, especially like in and out of the truck, like, putting your bow in, putting your bow out. An extra bow in the back seat or behind that seat just kind of gets in the way. And then an extra bow case is just so large and like, to get into the coolers or to get other gear. And now we'll see how full his truck is. I've got the other bow sitting there and can throw it in the case. Our other thought is we shoot the same draw length, and I can shoot his bow and he can shoot mine. And so if something like catastrophic happened, like we could shoot each other's bow. And I do have an extra string and all my extra stuff. We'll have a target, we'll have arrows. And I brought an extra bow before. One time I brought one to Alaska on a big float trip. I actually brought two bows on the float trip.
Oh, wow.
Just because I didn't want to have something happen to the bow, and I'm out there for 3 weeks and not have a bow. But the majority of times I travel with one bow. And the other thing I worry about is getting too warm inside the vehicle for like early season hunts, like trying to leave it, even leaving it in the case. And the other thing is like theft, and not that I've ever been ripped off, but then if somebody, breaks into your truck or something, steals both your bows, like I don't have a backup back at home, or, steals your backup bow while you're out hunting, would just be horrible. So most of the time I just bring my one bow and then I have everything to work on it. And I really haven't ran into any issues yet. What about you? What do you do in that case? Do you ever bring two bows on these trips?
Yeah, man, it's a cost benefit analysis, kind of like what you just broke down. And I have brought an extra bow before, but I ultimately decided it wasn't worth it, because I just, like you say, if you have a string and you have some serving and you factor in, you're like, okay, so it still is fairly rare to damage your bow, like bend a cam, bust a limb, whatever, knock on wood, that something like that's going to happen if you're very careful. And like, I don't know, when you're kind of taught, like growing up, taking care of your weapon is everything, whether it's a rifle or a bow. How you carry it in the mountains accordingly. So if you do fall, you're not going to fall on top of it. And I can only think of, Brian, probably like 2 or 3 times in my entire career where I totally like ate it and was like, ooh, I probably just ruined my bow or bent a cam or something. Like probably 2 times in 20 years that it's happened. And thankfully it didn't. I didn't have any catastrophic damage, but I know it happens all the time. Like guys are bending cams or busting limbs or, running over their bows. I've heard of that too. So I'm just like hyper sensitive, hyper, whatever you want to call it, aware of my bow and where the cams are and when I'm carrying it. And then I'll put on like a string protector too, like a cam and string protector if I'm riding a dirt bike or hiking through a nasty brush. Definitely when I'm traveling internationally, I'll put that string protector on there. When it's in the bow case, just, going above and beyond. It's probably a little bit extreme, but you never know what's floating around in your bow case that could damage your string. And so you're just thinking of all these things that you can do to go above and beyond to protect the little things. And it happened this summer. Here's a good example. So I think I was spring bear hunting. I don't know how it happened, but I had my bow in the back seat. And at the end of the hunt or whatever, I looked and there was like a nick out of my string, like a broadhead had touched my string and it cut a couple strands. And I was like, what the heck? Because that's another thing. I'm always like very careful with broadheads and like taking them out of the quiver and, how my motions and just overall care of your string with broadheads around. And so what we concluded is that we had like a camp shovel in the back seat as well. And that camp shovel, it had some serration on it and it must have touched the string of my bow or like rubbed on it, like bouncing in the truck a little bit. And it kind of just chewed a couple of those strands up. But that's another good reminder, even when your bow is in the back of your truck, stabilizer down, string up, so nothing can touch your string. And it's kind of like, maybe like the muzzle of your rifle or your lens of your scope. Like you're doing everything to like keep it out of harm's way. And that's how it should be, with your string too. And that's one thing. Like when I see like grip and grins when you're like bow hunting and guys have their bow like string in the ground, how like they might have string in the ground and it's laying on the animal. That makes me cringe. Like, don't put your string in the ground, guys. Like, keep your string up, put your stabilizer in the ground. Never put your string in the ground. That's like resting your rifle with the muzzle in the dirt or something. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, that's I love hearing you talk about it, Dan, because I am the same way. My string has never touched the dirt. It's always up.
It's like the American flag. Like, don't let it touch the ground.
That's totally it. Well, and you just get this hyper awareness of your string and of your bow, and you take good care of it. I did take one of those spills this year. Now, in the mountains, I always try to carry it in the downhill arm, but you're hiking 10 to 15 miles a day. And it was a frosty morning and we were crossing a rock slide or something, and I stepped on one of those rocks that was like stepping on a slip and slide. It was just had a layer of ice on it, and I went down so hard on my bow on that side of the mountain up high country muley hunting late season. And it's the hardest I've gone down on my bow in a long time. Like you said, like a couple times in history you can remember, and I looked at it. I was like, I can't believe this thing survived. I mean, my sight and the side of my bow took the brunt of it or whatever, but the thing was still on. Luckily, I did have a field point in there. And anymore, it's really tough to shoot into a rotten log or a dirt hillside because it's like that arrow, you're just donating it to the woods. Usually it like blows it up, you know, but I was able to find a spot, a rotten log, shoot into it. The bow is still right on the money, which was really surprising. But yeah, I took one of those spills on my bow this year. But yeah, like you, really careful in the truck. Nothing rubs against it. The string protector is another great one. I use that as much as I can. One place you really have to watch your bow is like strapping it to your pack as well. Strapping it to your pack, having it rub on straps, or like I had a buddy, David Wise, he's a Olympic gold medalist snowboarder, and we were on a hunt in Hawaii, and he was hunting with my buddy Rob, and my buddy Rob's like, you know, David never attaches his bow to his pack, and Rob's like, well, why don't you just put that on your pack while we're hiking out? And he put it on his pack, and he got a limb in between his cam and his string and de-strung his bow packing out. And then it was a mission. I mean, we were checking around for bow presses, but where we were at, there just wasn't much access to one. I I'd like we got it together with a ratchet strap, which was a little bit sketchy. Like it wasn't like an actual bow press, but we were able to get his bow back together, but it had de-strung it. And then I had a buddy this year that called me out of the blue, and he went to draw back on an elk during his elk hunt here in Montana, and his bow de-strung. Like I don't know if he torqued it. I don't know if something got him. No, it didn't de-strung. I'm sorry, Dan. I said that wrong. His bow, the string actually broke,
Oh,
and it
what?
was weird. It was in like where his bow attaches to the cables, like on either side. Just that small little loop attachment had snapped, and his bow de-strung while he was drawing on a bull, and he didn't know what had happened. And he actually had another string with him. He came over. I have a press, and so I was able to get his bow put back together. It's always a little sketchy once you get a bow put back together. Like, I'm not sure what went wrong to make it do what it did,
Yeah.
but draw slowly, and we were able to get it all sighted back in and get him back hunting the next day. I just tuned it with the cable that hadn't busted. You know, it just tuned it all back to that and came in pretty quick. But so those are a couple times where the bow's gone out. And I've had some things happen, you know, like nothing major, like stabilizer coming loose one time, like my bracket on the stabilizer. Oh, I had a quiver come loose one time where I had to pull my quiver on a backcountry hunt. Couldn't get it tightened back up for one reason or another. I can't remember exactly what happened, but couldn't get it tightened back up, had to pull it off. But I've really had good luck. But I do usually have a press. I do usually have an extra string in it, maybe a press in the truck, usually not on a backpack hunt. And what I figure too is if something goes wrong, like, you know, usually I'm not, you know, 20 hours from the house, where if I have to, I can just drive home and grab another bow and then get back in the field. But yeah, I've been fortunate to not have too many things go wrong as far as the bow or in the field, or the thing always seems to stay on. Like I can just trust it. My zero always stays on. But yeah, for the most part, I've had pretty good luck. Only a couple things in 20 plus years of bow hunting or so, and nothing too major. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I kind of factor in the benefit of bringing it, and I've definitely brought it on a handful of hunts. But yeah, I think this time, you know, unless there's some extra room or things change tomorrow when Dan pulls in the driveway, I think we're just going to bring the couple bows and be good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still super rare. And if you're hypersensitive about it, then yeah, I think it's not quite worth it. I think twice about it, like going overseas, you know, to New Zealand or whatever. But I think even even there's bow shops. And that's a cool thing with the Matthews system is you have the string that you can, hook onto your two cams, and then you can change a string out. You can change a cable out right there. So that's pretty handy to have on these new Matthews, is that, string press system that they have. And then, most of the like developed countries anyway, like probably have a bow shop. Australia, they have bow shops. New Zealand, they do. So I think you could like get back and going again if you had to. But yeah, like when I look at like an ibex hunt, or in New Mexico, or an Aoudad hunt, or that kind of country, it just reminds me of Hawaii, right? It's very rocky, rugged stuff. It doesn't take much to bend a cam on that stuff. And I've put dents in my, where I have sustained damage is like the limb pocket, like on the front of my bow, for whatever, fallen or whatever, and just putting some good dings into my limb pocket bracket, the housing right there, which hasn't really caused any damage. But for actual like troubleshooting in the field, I don't think I've ever had to do anything. I've seen it a couple times, like in Hawaii, like what you're saying, derailing on full draw, and like usually more with beginners, like really like gripping that grip, like torquing the grip. And it doesn't take much, or you torque that grip, whether it's the heat of the moment, or maybe your draw weight's a little too stiff for you, and you go to draw back, and you derail it because you're just out of that linear plane because your grip. And I've seen that a couple times. I was going to say, there on Lanai, Jason Menderos, he's got a bow press, and he's saved the bacon. Somebody in my party a few years ago derailed, and so we got the bow up and going again. But that's probably the most common from what I've seen, or just being around archery, is over gripping and derailing, or like cutting your string, or I haven't had any like catastrophic failures like what you said. Well, I wonder what happened, on that loop. Your buddy, just the string broke, the cable broke, and maybe, I've heard stories that can happen if your bow gets too hot, like if it's been in the heat, and those fibers can kind of separate because it's gotten so hot. But have limbs delaminate, and a multitude of other things go wrong too. So yeah, it's just one of those things where you're just got to be hypersensitive about it, and pray nothing goes wrong, and just treat that weapon like it's your lifeline to success, which it is.
Yeah. I think maybe he sliced that string in his truck, or like in the travel, or while hunting, and didn't notice it. Or could have been a defective string loop on it too, that was tied in at the wrong place, that put too much pressure on one area or something. But you think he would have found that in practice or something, So I think he probably nicked his string somewhere and then busted when he went to draw. But there are some things I do double up on. Rangefinder is one of them. It's like, that piece of gear is so important, and we just take it for granted that it works. We also, when I don't want to put him on blast, but we were dialing in his bow, and we went to range the target, and his rangefinder battery was dead. And he goes, "Oh, I got a rangefinder in my binoculars. Go ahead and use that." So we rangefind with his binoculars, and then that one went dead. So rangefinder batteries are a major one. And the battery indicators on rangefinders are like, it shouldn't be trusted. Like it just change out your battery at the beginning of the year before hunt. And speaking of, I've got a new battery in my bino harness. I should probably just change it out before this hunt. I mean, you're talking about a $10 item, but I do throw an extra rangefinder, and I don't pack it in backpacking with me, but I usually have it in the truck. The other thing is binos. I've been using these image stabilizing binos. Now, I haven't had an issue with any of my pairs now, and I've been using them for years and abusing them. Like, they have never failed me. But I do carry an extra pair of those with me just in case, or even just like an extra set of binos. So I kind of like double up on those things. Knives are something that I double up on. You never want to kill something and not have your knife on you and have to try to use a broadhead to butcher it up. So I'm usually like doubled up on knives, and I actually double up on knives while backpacking. I have one in my bino harness in case I leave my pack, and I've got one in my pack. So that's an item I'll double up on. And then headlamps I also double up on. I've got a rechargeable one. And it's great until it's not, and I can charge it back there, but you just never know. And so I do have a little battery one that I bring with me as well. So those are like a couple items I'll double up on. The other thing is a pack. I haven't had anything really go wrong with a pack, but one time I had like some rock pikas chew through my load lifter on my pack, like at night, like while I was sleeping or whatever. And so I didn't have a load lifter on my back for the rest of the hunt. So, some crazy things can happen. So I usually have a couple packs, but usually that's more of function, not like a backup. It's like, okay, I'll have a day pack and I'll have an expedition style pack. So I can do both style trips usually. But those are some of the things I double up on. Can you think of anything else? And do you double up on those items, Dan?
Yeah, no, I do double up on that stuff. And like a release, I always have another release in my truck, or if I'm going international, I bring that with me, because the odds that I'm going to find, a true ball short and sweet or two in New Zealand is probably pretty slim. And so I'm picky about my releases. The thing is, with my releases, I'm indexed, so I always have the strap on, so it's kind of hard to lose. But there's still like times where it's not attached to me or on my wrist, and I have, I put it like in my cargo pocket on my pants or something. But release is a huge one for me. And then those stinking CR2 batteries for rangefinders. And it seems like the more the optic can do, whether with the range, and it's gathering barometric pressure, and if it's Bluetooth and it's bound to something, bound to your phone or whatever, the more electronic capabilities that optic device has, the quicker those CR2 batteries like die. And same thing, I've had them die on hunts, and it's like, usually on most rangefinders, you should be able to get through a CR2 in a season and like not have it fail on you. And I had both of my optics. The CR2 failed halfway through the season, and one was like on a hunt, and it was like kind of annoying because it was dead on a hunt, and the battery was probably only a month and a half old. I mean, I used the heck out of it, but yeah, that's a big one, especially overseas. Bringing a CR2 with you. Depends on the optic, where I'm going or what I'm hunting. If I'm going to bring a spare, I usually always bring a handheld rangefinder, which I don't really use anymore, but I always bring one just in case with me, in addition to my rangefinding binos. So I think that's very important too. And then the knife thing, 100%. The headlamp thing, 100%. I don't always have two headlamps with me, but it's definitely good to have for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, the CR2 always have one in my bino harness. The release one's a good one. I always run two releases, and I always carry my spare release with me in my bino harness. So it's not going to cost me an animal if I lose my release. I've actually had a really good track record of not losing releases, but I have to say I lost one this season. So
Really?
yeah, I had to replace it. I was crawling in on a bull, and it was pouring down rain. And I was crawling in and had an arrow knocked in my release on the string as I was crawling in the last 100 yards. Yeah, it wasn't even the last 100. And as I crawled in, it was somewhere in that 80 or 100 yards in the grass. It was soaking wet. It was right at dark. I didn't end up shooting the bull. He ended up getting on the backside of the cows or whatever. I didn't get a shot at him. And but when I looked down at my string, my release wasn't there. So I clicked my backup release to it. Almost shot him with my backup release. And then went back, and I walked back and forth in that grass, and I knew exactly where it was, inside 100 yards, and I just couldn't find it in the dark. I actually hiked back up there, and I actually hiked back up there to look for it. Opener rifle. This was towards the end of season or whatever, and I wandered all over that thing, back and forth. I knew from the tree, I knew where I crawled from, and then I look up on the ridge, and these guys are waving at me. It's opener rifle or whatever, and I'm like, oh, maybe they found it. Or so I hiked all the way up another, I don't know, 500 feet up the elevation. They're like, oh, you looking for a bugle tube? And I'm like, no. They'd found somebody's bugle tube hiking up there or something, But anyways, I did lose a release this year, but I've had that thing for 15 years, and it's a bummer. I lost it. I mean, I was definitely bummed about it. I just bumped it off my string, and somehow it just the aliens took it or buried in the grass or something. I just could not find that thing for the life of me. But that's actually the first release I've ever lost. So I replaced it. I have a new one. Doesn't quite have the same feel. It's the same release. It's just not quite as broke in yet, but I'm getting used to it. So I do have a release and backup release. But yeah, that was a $250 mistake this season, but it happens.
Oh man, yeah, it's one of those things. If it's not attached to your body or your bow, you have a pretty good chance of losing it eventually. And I've never lost a release in the field, but once again, I'm an index finger shooter, so it's always on my wrist, so can't really lose it. But there's been a couple times where, you sit down and you're taking a layer off and you take your release off and you're eating lunch or whatever, and your release ends up on your pack or something. And I've gotten up and packed up and took off and was like, hey, what, wait, and like my release was gone. And I was like, and hike back and go get it. Luckily I hadn't been too far away, but man, there's just so many little things like that you have to be sensitive to, because it's like, yeah, you lose any of those things. And if you only have one of them, I mean, you're done. You're going home. And it's the same thing with cameras, when you're out filming. I tell my camera guys this all the time. Treat the camera like it's your weapon, because if the camera's broken, if you lose the batteries, if you don't have enough batteries, if you run out of card space, we're going home. We're at least going back to the truck if it's there. But it doesn't take much for a hunt to be over because of equipment damage or failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%, man. And it can happen. I mean, I remember my buddy Rob, he had his kid out hunting a different island or whatever, and they were hunting sheep. And I remember his boot de-lambed, like the bottom of his boot de-lambed, And so he lost like the sole of his shoe out there while hunting. And you can't really hunt that lava rock country in your socks, which he had to borrow some shoes that weren't his size. And it was like a whole deal. I do bring extra shoes as well. Yes. I bring extra shoes mostly because, I brought one pair that I'll trust, and not that I'm going to lose a sole or something on the quality of boots that I use, but if they get soaking wet, they can be really tough to dry out where you're hiking with soaking feet for a couple days. So I always have a couple pairs of shoes in there as well. But yeah, I mean, it's something you got to be prepared for. Like it's also good to have spare clothes in the truck, like spare pants and stuff, because your pants can get soaked in a day that it's raining. And if you don't have an extra pair, it can be miserable for another day or two, especially if it's really cold. So yeah, that's another thing is spare clothes in the truck too is a good one.
Yeah, that's spare boots. I love having a pair of extra boots with me. If I'm horse camp, I always bring another pair of boots, whether it's in the pannier, in my backpack, wherever. I'm going to put another pair of boots in, and then one at the truck if I'm not using horses. Just for the fact too, like you said, if you get a pair wet or whatever. But even packing meat, like if you do a heavy load one day and you're packing out and you get back to the truck and you're tired and your feet are sore, putting on a different pair of boots for the next day for another load of meat can be like all the difference in the world when it comes to like feeling fresh and your feet feeling decent. Because I mean, it just as well as anybody. You have a heavy pack out and you got to go back in there and you put those same boots on, that next morning. You're like, man, my feet are tired, or man, they feel sore. You start walking a little bit, you might start feeling better. But there's just something about it when you have a different pair of boots, a different footbed to slide those feet into after a day of fatigue. Like you feel fresh. It's actually amazing what a different pair of boots can do for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Dan. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, fresh on the feet. Another thing I really take good care of, or that I'm cognizant of, is my phone. It's like my navigation. It's my, now I didn't run a satellite messenger this year. I canceled my subscription and ran my phone on satellite mode. Now it's not the most consistent, but I just, that is my safety device. That's my communication. That's my navigation. Have all my pins in there. A lot of times, like if I'm just hunting solo, I haven't been bringing the big camera with me to take photos. So I'm also going to take my harvest photos with it. And I'm taking my photos in the field with it as well. And so that's like a huge piece of my gear in the backcountry. And it's also no good if you don't have any battery life. So having an external charger, and then this year, like also you can get like grass and debris in your charging port and it won't charge or whatever. So I've done this. It reminds me of it because I've cleaned a couple people's phones like over Christmas. My daughter's boyfriend, and then also my sister's husband, their phones aren't charging, and so they needed the whatever that set it on charger, and couldn't use a cord. And I was able to clean it out and get them charging again. But cleaning that port, and then I think my cord in my charging kit is just like a little sensitive, like kind of falling apart. Like I've had it plugged into a charger and into my phone too much, like in my pocket, to where now that charging port's a little sensitive. And so just as we're talking about it, Dan, I'm going to change out my cord on my phone and my pack. It's like it has worked so far, but you also need to be cognizant of your battery life. Like if you don't put it on airplane mode as you're hiking around and you're in and out of service, man, it can just drain your battery. And if you're on a backpack hunt, you could have to shut your phone off, which makes it a lot tougher to navigate and do things with. But that's like a huge piece of my gear nowadays, which is wild. I mean, I hunt a lot to get away from my phone, and I love having it on airplane mode, but I do use it as a tool a bunch.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is, back in the day we had the GPS units that we were on, where I was on anyway for navigation or whatever. And so now your phone is taking the place of that. And it's like, you get people that are like, oh man, you're on your phone a bunch. It's like, yeah, I'm navigating or I'm taking video. And because that's another big thing, digiscoping with your phone. I mean, it's another camera, it's another tool, it's a piece of equipment that is vital for not only to gather content, for an episode, but for taking gripping grins, taking photos, checking your email. So you can do all this stuff in one device now, which it's super convenient. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And like that's the one thing that I've broke. It's been several years now, but I was dirt biking in and I had it like in my cargo pocket on my leg. And so I've really changed like where I carry my phone now to protect it from damage. But I had a heavy pack on and I was going in on this dirt bike trail and there was this like little loop around this tree and there was like that much, like probably 5 or 6 inches of moon dust on this corner. And I had a bunch of weight on my front tire because I was standing up with that heavy pack. And I went to turn and that front tire just like slipped out from underneath and I just ate it. I mean, that's like one of the times like that I just ate it hard. And I was like, oh, I definitely broke something. And I was worried about my bow, but it was my phone because it was in my pant pocket, in my cargo pocket on my side, and it was on the bottom side when I wrecked. And so here we are going into the beginning of a hunt. I have no navigation device. I have no way to gather digiscope content through my spotting scope with my phone. Obviously, I have no way to communicate from a mountain peak or anything. Luckily my camera guy, he had a phone. And so we got by with, OnX and using that and navigation and calling out or whatever, or checking in with the family. And then I think we Jimmy rigged something to get his phone to work for digiscoping. But yeah, heck, your phone nowadays for like what we do is just as important as an optic, just as important as a bow. And when you break something like that, like, yeah, it's a pain in the butt. And of course, a phone, it's not like you carry a backup with you either. So I carry my phone differently now. And I'm like, okay, I need to not be an idiot about this. Where can I carry my phone where it's not going to be susceptible to damage if I wreck, if I slide down a mountain when I'm hiking, whatever. And it ends up in my pant pocket a fair amount, probably more often than it should. But I always put it, like you said, on airplane mode is really important traveling in the mountains. But I always put it in that chest pocket because it's like, okay, if I'm going to take a blow hard enough to the chest, that's going to damage my phone. It's probably going to screw me up too. And I might be severely injured or, hurt and need a helicopter or something. But that chest pocket is where I try to keep it now to protect it from any sort of fall or damage or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I always feel more susceptible too if I'm traveling international or even like this next trip where I'm 20 hours away from the house. You lose that thing on a 2-week hunt. Like, not only do you lose your navigation or pictures, video, or that ability, but you also, like, it is your communicating device. And you had to not have a Google Maps as you're traveling home. I'd have to stop and buy a map, or it's like yeah, it's, you really have to protect it. And I mean, mine does get my pants pocket, my front pocket. Now, you got to make sure that your pants pocket don't tip things in the dirt. Like, all your smalls, you have to make sure that you're zipped up every day. And so that's my release. That's also my phone. And I really like the zipper pockets. I like the side zipper pocket, my vest, or the chest pocket that you're talking about. But a zipper pocket is so much safer than your front pocket. And your front pocket's pretty good. Like, I've tested them on my pants. Like, I trust it. But if you sit and you put your legs up or something and you're sitting back on the hillside, it can spill your phone on the hillside. So it's not only a broken phone, but a lost phone too would be just as bad. And if you ever drop something in the snow, it's like, good luck trying to find it in the snow. Like, maybe if you dropped it and you knew you dropped it, but if you didn't know it, man, that thing is gone. There's no way you're ever going to find it, And so, yeah, like, you have to get a system for your gear as well. Seems like the start of season, you're like a little bit discombobulated, just trying to remember your bino harness, your pack, you got your phone, your release, your bow, you got all this stuff that you're trying to protect and keep safe and keep track of as well. And I think it's always good whenever you get up from a spot, if you sit down, if you're glassing, if you're taking a rest or taking a break, is always to, like, just make a check and look around you before you walk away from that spot. Like, not only for important gear, but also just to make sure a wrapper didn't fall out of your pocket or something like that. But I always make a last check. It's like a habit to, like, look around. Another thing that I'm notorious, or that I haven't lost it, but I had to go back for it this year. And it wasn't back very far. It was only back about 100 yards, but my trekking pole. Is I set it as I sat down. I was moving with the trekking pole, and then I got 100 yards down the trail, and I was like, I had my bow. I'm like, something's missing here, and then I'm like, oh, my trekking pole. I had to walk back and get it. It was like 100 yards I had left it or whatever. But yeah, it's another thing I got to keep track of. But yeah, it takes hunting for a bit to find your system where you don't feel like you're discombobulated. The other thing I've done is I've left for a hunt before in the dark. And in the dark, I can forget a baseball cap because I've got my headlamp on, or like my bino harness is one. And I've never had to go on a hunt without my bino harness. I always remember before I get too far. But in the dark, I'm just strapping things on and grabbing things, and I don't have my bino harness. So it's like I'm hyper aware of it nowadays. It's like anytime I'm leaving in the dark, I always got to check and make sure I've got my bino harness. But yeah, just a couple things that I've done in the past, like kind of some of those idiot moves you try to avoid.
No, totally. I've done the same thing with the bino harness. Forget it, whatever. You're, like you said, it's early morning, you're strapping, buckling, and putting stuff in your pack and putting layers on, and you're like, oh, I got to put the bino harness at the end, and you're putting another layer on, or a vest or whatever. And then maybe you might take it off. And yeah, I've taken off from the truck or from camp. I'm like, oh, forgot the bino harness. Got to go back. Yeah. Done that a time or two.
My buddy showed up one time. We were hiking, and I hiked from one vantage point to the next, and we got to the next vantage point, and I looked him, and he didn't have his bow. He had left his bow at the last vantage point or whatever, had to walk back and get it. It wasn't too far, but yeah, those little idiot mistakes can definitely happen, or you just have so many things you're trying to remember that you're thinking about. But yeah, that bino harness is a good one. You know what I hate doing is I hate strapping my pack on before my bino harness. It seems like I make that mistake a handful of times every year. Like, I don't forget my bino harness, but I'm there getting my stuff ready, and I strap my pack on, and then I look down and my bino harness is sitting there, and I'm like, oh gosh dang it, like I just like out of sequence or whatever. But yeah.
Yep. No, that stuff happens all the time for me too. It's just part of it. And like you said, that's, once you get into a system, once you get into a rhythm after the first hunt or something, you forget something small or a couple things small. You get into a rhythm, and it gets to be just a little bit easier. But like on a situation like this, when you're packing for New Mexico, and it's a different hunt, right? Because you're going with a buddy, and so you're concentrating all your gear into one vehicle instead of two. And so how is that? I was going to ask you that. How does that changed, like how you're going to cook maybe because you have less room for maybe other gear, or obviously with a buddy, you're probably going to be able to use his stove, or, you try to, swap out, but it's mostly truck hunting, right? When you're going to be down there, you're not going to like necessarily backpack in somewhere blind per se. But has that changed how you're going to bring and how you thought about packing and prepping for this hunt?
Yeah, it has a bit. I've tried to condense down my gear. So, 2 food bins. Usually I have one to cook with and then one with food in. I've condensed down to 1 food bin, and then we're gonna split a cooler. You can't really fit 2 big full-size Yeti coolers in there. And then I've got this cool product. It's called a kill bag. So it's pretty much like a big soft side cooler with a drain on it. And so if we kill a ram down there and we continue to hunt, we have that we can fill with ice and put that ram in, and it pretty much folds up to nothing, so that'll pack down in the truck pretty nice. So yeah, I've tried to like kind of just condense down my gear a bit, and then yeah, like I say, the 1 cooler. Yeah, we're just only need 1 target between us. We don't need 2. Yeah, just tried to condense down things. And then I've got like a duffel bag with like my hunting clothes in there, like the hunting clothes I'm gonna wear, like the important stuff. And then I also have like my puffy jacket in there for like camping, my toothbrush, and so that'll kind of sit in the back seat. Easy access stuff that I know where it's at, where I don't have to go digging through all my gear to get it. And then my pack, I have that loaded up with everything I need to go hunt with. So, that's all loaded, ready to go. It's got my bino harness in the top of it. And so I've got that I'll throw in the back seat or whatever that'll be ready to rip. But yeah, it's kind of made me condense down my gear, talk to him, make sure, see what he's bringing. Yeah, not just trying to not bring quite as much stuff, but we will have 2 jet boils. We'll probably, I've got my stove to cook. I'm sure he'll probably have his stove to cook. So we haven't really condensed everything into 1 item. But we have condensed a lot of things down to kind of to take up room. And then I just have to remember that I don't have my truck. And so things that would normally be in my truck or in my toolbox, just a multi-tool, a big Allen head, like some of that stuff. I've had to kind of throw in my gear to make sure I've got it. I'm sure he's got some tools and stuff too, but just to make sure some of that stuff that I would normally have in my truck, a charger for my phone, some of that stuff that I've just had to kind of think about and make sure that I have packed away. So that's, it's weird not to bring my own truck. I usually always drive, always take my truck, but we're taking his truck this time around. So, yeah, just trying to prepare for that.
Yeah, that can be difficult in itself, changing vehicles. And I do that from time to time with, the company assets and the truck, and sometimes changing vehicles. And you take some of that stuff for granted, because once you have your own vehicle, you kind of, like for me anyway, if I'm truck hunting, it depends on what I'm doing, but I'll have like my toothbrush and toothpaste like in a certain pocket in the truck. And so you got to go through and think of all the stuff that you have squirreled away that you use all the time when you change vehicles. And then, yeah, it just sets you up for forgetting something, or, losing something, or, whatever. So yeah, you have to take that extra time and be like, okay, what do I need to grab from my vehicle that I take for granted, or I'm not going to think about? And so, yeah, that's definitely a different variable for sure.
Yep. It should be. Or it is. Yeah. When you're changing vehicles, and it's been really good to have this time to prepare for this hunt, just be a bit more organized. So much of the time during season, I kind of like everything lays out in my garage, and I know if I've got everything that's laid out in my garage, I'm good to go. It's like I don't really put things away during hunting season. It more just like lives on the floor, like by where I'm packing. I do organize periodically, and we'll put some stuff away. But yeah, this has been kind of nice to have the extra time. And usually that's the key for me. I don't make a packing list, but if I can just take a couple days and pack, like I'll remember things. It's I've been journaling a bunch lately. I got my journal thrown in my bag, so I can continue to write some notes down on this hunt and things. Just some small things like that I been able to remember and throw in. The radios is another one. Getting those things charged up and ready to go. Those will be a major advantage down there, being able to use two-way radios, not only for making stocks and things, but just for communication as well. So yeah, I've kind of tried to think about some of those things, and they make those radios too with a plug in them where you have a microphone and a headset. And if you got a
Oh,
buddy like in Arizona or New Mexico, definitely like read the game laws where you're going. Some states allow it and a lot of states don't. But if they do allow it, it is a major advantage, or could be a major advantage, to be able to communicate with your buddy. But that headset's pretty neat with the so you don't hear it beep or go on and off or hear your buddy. You can just put the headset in and then it has a microphone to it. So that's a pretty cool feature for those radios anyways. But yeah, man, it should be fun. I've got a bunch of time, and it's there's sheep in the unit somewhere down there, and will be a new experience, a new place, and new species for me. So I'm really looking forward to it. Should be an absolute blast.
I was going to ask you, what have you done for preparation for like your hunt plan, like as far as intel from buddies or connections down there? Are you going in blind and just going to start out with the long glass and try to locate something from the truck? You have a particular drainage that you're just gonna go all in because of intel from the past, or like kind of where are you at? Because I assume you've never stepped foot in this area.
No, I've never stepped foot in the area. So a lot of what you're talking about, is fortunate to get some intel from buddies that have hunted it before, from friends, even through social media. Like a lot of guys have shared intel with me where they found rams before. So that's been real beneficial. And so I've been able to mark pins that way, talk to buddies on their previous hunt where they found them that time of year. So that kind of gave me a starting place. And then through that, I'm able to build my own research as well, kind of the areas, the topography, the undulation of like where they were finding rams. I'm able to kind of transpose that into different areas throughout the unit, or look at it like a cliff band feature that rolls around that keeps going into another drainage, or look at a lot of the roadless areas where maybe guys haven't got into, that I may have to hike into, which really helps me get away from pressure and kind of find my own experience in there. So through that, I've done my own research, I've done intel, and then I also, in this one, I put in through the guide draw. So I have a buddy down there. And so the way the guide draw works is they have to guide you for 2 days, and then they can cut you loose on the rest of the hunt. So you sign a contract. And so I do have a guide, which he actually killed a ram a couple weeks ago. He picked up a rifle tag down there.
Mm.
So I'll be connecting with him down there for the first couple days anyways. So it'll be good to kind of get an overview of the unit, kind of where he finds rams and how he does it. So I picked his brain a little bit as well. So yeah, I've been fortunate on this hunt where I'm not going in blind, where I've got good intel. I've actually got a guide that I'll be hunting with, which is I've never really hunted with a guide. It'll be more like a buddy relationship, I would think, but officially he is my guide for a couple days. So I'll be going with him and picking his brain a bunch, and then and then be cutting loose from there. And so I think I've got a really good hunt plan built, and at least where there's some rams around. And I know it's going to be difficult. The unit isn't what it used to be. There's not as many rams around, but there are sheep in the unit, and I've got enough places to check out that I'm confident I'll be able to find some sheep.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about, is being resourceful, right? We talk about that all the time, especially in this day and age. And that is the benefit of having contacts down there. Like you said, the guide draw and having a guide buddy. I mean, I don't blame you one bit. I would do the same thing too. Just for the fact that you have a certain amount of time and you want to make the most out of the tag. It's not something that you're going to draw every year. And it's not something that you have a ton of time to go scout and figure out on your own. I mean, it's driving basically across the country. And so, yeah, those are the things that you got to factor in when you're going in on a hunt, is your logistics and what's realistic as well. And you're, like you say too, the biggest thing on your side is time too, right? I mean, that's huge. If you have what it's like a couple weeks season is what they have those on. Yeah. So especially for a bow hunt, it can take that long sometimes, especially, you know, Aoudad. And like what I think you'll see Aoudad are like are hunting mouflon. So you're going to be fine. I mean, it's going to be a challenge, but it ain't anything you haven't seen already. I can tell you that. And where they live is so fun too, because it's like set up for bow hunting, like you're saying, with the cliff bands and the rugged features, and you have topography to work with. And obviously with Aoudad, strength is in numbers for sure, and they can definitely pick you off. But what's don't they breed like in October, November? So they're probably, the rams might be off by themselves. They might be bachelored up a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's kind of my intel, is that it'll be
Yeah.
post rut. Yeah, they'll be
Yeah.
off on bands on their own or running solo. Yep.
So you find like big herds, and this was my experience anyway in Texas. You find like a big herd, and there's nothing ram wise, there's nothing too good in a big herd like that. And so, yeah, if you have a basic understanding of sheep or just how animals work, and mouflon are kind of the same way. Yeah, I mean, think of it like this too. I mean, you've been hunting mouflon, you've been preparing all these years for an Aoudad hunt or a bighorn sheep hunt when you draw someday. But that's what it's all about, is taking the similarities of species and applying it to a slightly different species. It's still a sheep, but yeah, I mean, and then you get in there and all it is yeah, a little bit different terrain, maybe a little different style of hunting, but sheep is a sheep. You're in for an animal that can see really well. They can pick out detail really well. You can't cheat the wind like anything, and go for it.
Yeah, that's great insight, Dan. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, you've hunted both mouflon and Aoudad and been successful. So, yeah, you have a good understanding of it. So, yeah, that's kind of what I expect. But yeah, just go have some fun. Just cut loose. Be present in the experience, in the moment. I've got time on my side. It's going to be a little bit warmer down there than Montana, although touch and go here lately. It's been pretty warm up here, but I'm going to soak in some sunshine and just enjoy the experience, try to help my buddy Dan arrow on. And then I'm sure I'll get my chances at some rams down there and have some fun. Adventure bow hunting and traveling. It's what guys like me and you live for.
Absolutely. That
Yep.
absolutely is. What's I was going to ask you too, is what are you holding out for? I mean, what do you have standards, or you just like a decent ram, or like how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I haven't really put numbers to it, but I think I'll know them when I see them. But just a good representation of a ram. Want to shoot a mature one. I like a big one. I think is like around 30 inches or so, and then they'll get bigger than that yet. I'm not too good at judging them yet, but I think I'll know them when I see them. Like just a good mature ram is what I'm looking for. What do you think, Dan? What is a big one, or how can you tell from your previous experience hunting them?
Yeah, no, that's something to bring up. That's really, because it's tricky, because it's something just like what maybe like goats or, yeah, bighorn sheep. If you don't do it a lot, it's hard to know, what you're looking at. Like, is that a 27? Is it a 30? But in my experience, like you'll see a fair amount of rams that, like, you look at them and they look decent, and they're like 25 to 27 inches. And they look like, when I'm looking at, and I'm not an Aoudad expert by any means, but when I look at him, you're like, okay, it looks like he's like a half curl. You're like, yeah, it's probably like a 26-inch ram somewhere in there. And then you can tell like how heavy they are too by looking at their facial features. Also, like the shaps, like that'll kind of tell you if it's a mature ram or not. I think it's a genetic thing too, because I've seen some younger rams that have like big shaps, but overall, like an older, mature Aoudad ram will have like big, prominent chaps all the way down his legs. And so that's, a difference maker when you're looking at them. And then just like, probably just like mouflon, maybe just like mountain goats a little bit, or antelope, like you kind of look at them and you compare, like, okay, obviously that's a nanny, and they're small, and so you're like, okay, those are rams, and you look for their nuts too. I've done that before and been like, okay, that's a young ram, okay, they have chaps or whatever. But when you see that 30 pluser. And I would say like a 30 pluser is kind of like the benchmark for like a big ram, like a nice ram. Like when you see one, because they're just like a different level of body size, a different level of mass on their horns. You like look at their head and you're like, holy crap, that thing's massive. And all like the younger rams and the nannies or ewes, they look skinnier. And so you kind of build that correlation once you're just like looking them over, and you begin to know what you're looking at. But down there, I would say the best thing that you can do is just look at a lot of sheep, and that'll kind of get you trained up on what you're looking at. But if for whatever reason, if you run across a band of rams that are mature in their shooters, I mean, it's not like you haven't seen an Aoudad. Look at photos, watch some videos, and be like, okay, that's what a good one looks like. So on day one, I can be able to identify a big ram, like a nice 30+ inch ram, and be like, I got to go kill that one right now, because you just don't want to be in that situation. That's a tough situation to, first day, and you're like, oh, I don't know, like, can I do better? And then you end up passing that ram, and then you hunt for 7 days and you don't find anything close to that. So, that might be a pretty rare situation to be in. It's happened to me on specific hunts before, but you just got to be at least somewhat aware of what you're looking at, which I know you're not going to have a problem with that. But that's been the biggest thing for me, is like a shooter, you see one and it's like, there's no question. You don't have to talk yourself into shooting. It's like antelope hunting. Like if you have to talk yourself into shooting that antelope buck, it's probably not very good. And it's Aoudad are the same way. Like if you see one, you're like, holy smokes, then you better kill it, because it's probably a good one.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, that's kind of how I've been thinking about it. So yeah, that's perfect, man. Well, I'm gonna get loaded up here tomorrow morning and get out of here and go have some fun. So I'll definitely catch up with you when I get back. Shoot you a text if I'm successful out there. But yeah, we just want to thank today's sponsors for today's show. So thank Yeti Coolers. We'll definitely be using Yeti, their tumblers and their cups and their coolers, and I even got a soft cooler thrown in with some of my stuff. So yeah, just great products and great gear.
Yeah. Those soft side coolers too, for fishing, for, like you said, for just truck drinks or keeping your lunch cold. I kind of was kicking myself a little bit going to Texas because I wanted to bring some meat home. And I was like, gosh, I should have just brought a soft sided cooler for like a carry-on bag just to bring a little bit of meat home. I mean, those Texas whitetails are pretty small. And I was kicking myself because I didn't bring one, because you kind of forget like how convenient those darn things are.
They're so convenient. Yeah, and those things for traveling and bringing meat back. I have brought so many hundreds of pounds of meat back, whether it's from Hawaii or New Zealand or Australia, or even, like you say, to Texas or something like that. Yeah, they're so convenient to bring meat back. And then you can use them down on the hunt, like you say, to keep drinks cold. There's nothing like having a cold drink in a hot place. Like when you're hunting Hawaii or when you're hunting and sweating and it's so hot out, to have an ice cold drink is feels like heaven on earth for sure.
Yeah, super handy.
Cool. So thanks to Yeti for their support of the podcast, and also thanks to Matthews. That new arc's an absolute shooter. Dan, I know you killed some critters with it this year and have that thing shooting money, but I'm so impressed with that bow.
Yeah, slick shooter, super quick to tune with that limb shift technology. It just makes it so the shooter can do every little micro adjustment that you can think of at the range. Like, it's so convenient now. So we're spoiled. What is it, 2026, that arc coming out, and the Lift X was the same way with that limb shift, but we're spoiled. They're sweet bows. It's the Cadillac of bows for sure.
Oh, so forgiving. I'm really impressed by the noise reduction on it too. It's a really quiet bow, which I think will give me a major advantage. I'm always hunting these jumpy critters that'll prone to jumping a string. So I think that quiet bow is also going to give me a major advantage there. But yeah, super quiet, super forgiving, easy to tune, holds a tune. That thing hasn't moved even a 32nd or a 64 since I've got it tuned in. That thing's just absolute money. So yeah, pumped to use it this season.
Heck yeah.
Cool. Well, right on, man. I'm going to get packed up, get out of here. Thanks a bunch for the podcast, Dan. We'll catch up with you soon.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Best of luck down there.
Yeah, thank you.